Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Match Point Podcast. Today, you're here with myself, Dentry Mono, one of your hosts, my co-host Michael Major, Kendrick Lash, and special guest Logan West, aka Wolverine Tennis.
Here we go. So we'll start off with you, Logan. Just introduce yourself to the people.
Absolutely. My name is Logan West. I am the head men's and women's tennis coach at my high school alma mater, Sidwell Friends School here in Washington, D.C. And I also am the founder of Go West Tennis, what I call a recovering lawyer. I traded in the courtroom for the tennis court about 10 years ago, and I haven't looked back. And I also do freestyle tennis trick shots in my spare time when I'm not chasing my two beautiful children around.
So we can start off with, why did you choose the name Wolverine West? Like, what does the name represent for you?
I was, the best nicknames are never self-dubbed; they're given. And when I was in college, my college teammates, the original X-Men movie had just come out. Wolverine's human name is Logan. I think it kind of fit my personality, and so they went with that, and it stuck. And also with the WW, it kind of fits, and I've kept rocking it ever since.
That's a dangerous name to have. Imagine guys like, oh yeah, you got to play Wolverine today.
Yeah. It does give a little intimidation factor, that's for sure.
Yeah. Who or what would you say has been your biggest influence on and off the court?
Oh man, I say probably biggest influence on the court. I had the same tennis coach when I was 9 years old, all the way through high school into college. Mitch White really taught me everything I know about the game. Like I said, I started working with him when I was 9. I was playing USTA junior team tennis. My dad had never really played competitive tennis, taught me off the TV. Unfortunately for me at that time, Jim Courier was winning the French Open back to back, and so I got that Hawaiian Western grip on the forehand and the baseball swing two-handed backhand. So when Mitch saw me, we actually played against his team at Chantilly Country Club in junior team tennis. I believe his words, I might be paraphrasing a little bit, to my mom were, your kid's got a lot of heart. His strokes suck, but I can fix them. I'd love to work with him.
Those coaches that are like real, like authentic, like that, they're the best. Though I would say, because obviously, like I've had some coaches say like really like harsh things, but it was like more constructive criticism more than anything.
Yeah, it's great to have a coach with some personality. You can have some jokes with them. Nobody wants to be serious all the time.
Absolutely. No, I think as a coach now, being on the other side, I think that's huge, being able to relate to your student athletes. I mean, you got to make it fun, right? If it's not fun, they're not going to want to be there. They're going to hang up the racket. It's all about growing the game, stoking the flames of that passion for the sport. So you got to bring personality to it. I think that's one of the ways I've used the trick shots is to get players excited about it and to kind of bring that flair to the game to keep it interesting, keep it fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you talked about coaching. So we know that you played college tennis at Dartmouth. So describe that like transition from playing college tennis to coaching, and also while you were in college, you were pursuing a law career. That's pretty hard. We're in college now, so we know.
Yeah.
So just give us some insight on that.
Absolutely not. So it's been a long and winding road. I never thought, when I was in college that I was going to end up coaching. I always loved tennis, but I thought, when I realized that I was not going to end up playing on the ATP, that I was hanging up my sticks after my senior year. I took what I thought was a safe route at that point, right, which was to go to law school. I passed the bar. I practiced for a few years. It's a great, noble profession, but my heart wasn't in it. And I actually happened to start coaching when my old high school coach, who had been at Sidwell for over 3 decades, was at the final years of his career. He asked me to come help out. I was still in my 20s. And he said, hey, come out, hit with our singles players. And at that point, I was thinking, oh, this will be a great workout. It'll be a lot of fun. More for kind of, personal reasons. I thought, selfishly, this would be, kind of a cool thing to do. As soon as I got on the court with the players, they started picking my brain. Obviously, some of them are trying to play college tennis. They want to know what it was like, strategies, ways to get there, and they are soaking up everything that I was telling them. And I said, man, this is the most rewarding profession I could possibly find. So I had to make a 180-degree career pivot, and I don't regret it. It's been awesome, and I love what I do. I wake up every morning, and they say if you love what you do, never work a day in your life, and I believe that's true.
Yeah. So, how did your experience as a collegiate athlete influence your approach to the way you coach?
Absolutely. No, I think I've had a lot of different coaching styles. Obviously, I mentioned Mitch White, who definitely had a lot of personality.
Yeah.
Was definitely from the old school, a little bit more the drill sergeant, which I don't believe Gen Z relates to. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No.
It depends.
It worked. It worked for me, but I have from what I've seen over the years, my coaching style is actually very different. I am much more of a light touch. I still try to keep the discipline and all of the essential things that you all know is essential to being able to play tennis at a high level.
Yeah.
But I'm all about making it fun. I'm all about connecting. You got to build trust with your student athletes, and being able to build each of those individual relationships is the key to building team chemistry, team culture, and getting them to really enjoy the game and to want to play for you. You have to have that buy-in. You have to have that healthy locker room.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a big thing. Like a positive like work environment like fosters so much more growth than people tend to realize. Because I mean, for me, this was my first year in college, and I just really liked it because of like the environment I was in with a lot of guys who were really hungry, that really want to work. And then I have friends that are like at bigger, better schools, and they were like, "Yeah, no, this wasn't it for me," just because like the coaches and the players they surrounded themselves with. So I do think that was a really good take on it.
Yeah,
And I,
I
yeah,
agree
go
with
ahead.
that for
Go
sure
ahead.
because environment plays a big role in being able to play tennis because I feel as though when you have that family environment and you feel as though you're not only playing for yourself but you're also playing for your teammates, your coaches, and you actually want to play for them as well. It's not just like, oh, I have to, but more of like a want and like a desire to do good for your teammates. That I feel like that's when you actually get the most out of your players in a team environment for sure. For sure.
With that being said, I want to know like what do you think young players today struggle with the most, and like how do you help them to overcome whatever it is you think may be like their biggest struggle?
I mean, every player is different, but one of the common themes that I've seen is dealing with the pressure of being in the arena. Right? I've seen a lot of players over the years that have great strokes. They're very sound technically. They're phenomenal practice players, but transitioning that from the practice court to the match is the biggest hurdle that they're trying to overcome. Like you said about the environment you're trying to create, I think that's huge, and I think we all learn in different moods, right? And you have to be in the right mood to be receptive to learning,
Yeah.
right? So if you're trying to learn something new, there's sort of the beginner's mindset, right? The beginner's mind is a Buddhist concept where you have to have that joy and that wonder, and you have to be embracing something new and embracing also the fact that you're going to fail. Like we all know, having tennis is a hard game. Those first several years, you're failing a lot.
Yeah.
Right, and Federer said in his commencement speech at my alma mater at Dartmouth last year, he pointed out the fact that in all of his matches,
51%.
he only won exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's huge. You're losing almost half of the points at the highest level.
Exactly.
So you've got to be able to deal with failure. And the way that he described that I thought was perfect, talking about how when you're playing a point, it has to be the most important thing in the world in that moment. And when it's over, it's over. And I'm constantly telling my players, you have to have that reset button. After every point, you hit reset. And actually, our players have embraced that, and they always say it's actually part of their cheer before the match, and they say it throughout the match to each other if somebody loses a tough point. Goldfish, right? Because the goldfish has no short-term memory. Right?
Our women's team says that.
It's great.
Yeah.
But I think having that ability, that resilience to be able to reset, to be able to persevere, to be able to adapt and overcome that adversity on the court is huge. And so you have to create an environment where your players know they can fail and it's okay. And I always tell my players, whenever we lose a match, right? And it's, as you guys know, playing college tennis at a high level.
Yeah.
I mean, undefeated seasons are unicorns, right? They almost never happen.
Yeah.
Right. I've been coaching tennis, for over a decade. My boys' teams have had one undefeated season in that whole time. Right. It's you're gonna lose matches, and I always tell them, when we lose a match, you are not going to be judged by your losses. You're going to be judged by how you respond to them. Exactly. And you've got to respond to those losses, embrace it, learn from it, go back and say, what didn't work? What can I change? And how am I going to make sure that the next time I face this player, this team, that I come out on the right side?
Yeah, for sure.
MJ, with that being said, I think that's a good
Yeah,
time to
this
ask
I
a
definitely have two
special
questions.
question.
So,
Yeah.
what percent? I know there's like a not a debate, but there's a numerous amount of different numbers that people put out. But what percent of tennis do you think is physical, and what percent do you believe is mental?
Well, man, that's a tough one. I mean, I like to say this game is played between the ears. It's not played between the lines.
Yeah,
The mindset matters, right? Obviously, you have to have that baseline, right? Everybody, when you get to a high level, when you get to especially that college level,
yeah,
that everybody can hit forehands and backhands.
yeah,
There are matchups that are different. You've got some of the serve bots. You've got some counter punchers, but it's really about who's going to be more mentally tough,
yeah,
right? And so I mean, I really think it probably is. To me, I'd say it's 75-25. 75 mental, 25 physical. That 25 has to be there,
yeah,
right? That's the prerequisite.
yeah,
You can't succeed if you don't have that 25, but everybody's got that. And
yeah,
that 75% is going to be the variance. And that's the difference between when you play two players you look at when they go out on the practice court to look the same. And then one of them's playing number one at a power five, and the other one is struggling to make the roster at a D3.
yeah.
And it's because that one who is playing at that Power Five school has got what it takes up here.
Yeah. But how do you think players can like train their mental, like try to strengthen or improve their mental? Like, what are some steps they can take?
Absolutely, there's no substitute for competition. You have got to get into the arena, and I think Billie Jean King's quote, which is on the wall when you walk into Ash Stadium at the U.S. Open, "Pressure is a privilege." Those four words, they say it all, right? And that's why I try to tell our players, you've earned the right to be here,
Exactly.
right? Pressure's a privilege. You have earned the right to set foot in the arena. So embrace it, right? Like when we play a championship match like we are today, I tell them there's not a lot of opportunities you have in life to step in the arena and play for a championship.
Yeah.
So enjoy the moment you all have worked for and get out there, compete, trust your training. I'm a firm believer that when two players are at the same level, the player who is looser is going to perform better under pressure.
Yeah.
That's why if you watch my teams warm up, we're playing a lot of Foursquare. We're playing a lot of those fun games, some dingles, things that keep them loose before the match, right? We're obviously warming up forehands, backhands, volleys, overhead serves, right? But then play some points and do some fun games. So my guys walk on the court, they're loose, they're laughing, they're having fun, and then they know when that first ball gets struck, they're locked in. But when they're loose, when they're in that mindset where they feel like they're ready to go, they've done the preparation, they've controlled the controllable, then they're going to perform in the arena. And that's another thing. The 24 hours, as you all know, I think the 24 hours before the match is almost as important as what happens when you step foot on the court.
Yeah.
Right? Like doing those things like the proper nutrition, the proper hydration, visualizing yourself the night before you go to bed, just 5 minutes, right? Visualizing yourself constructing points, winning points, shaking hands after the match. That manifestation of that success on the court the next day, it makes a difference.
It does. It definitely.
There's a book. I have it right here. This like changed everything. It's called The Power of the Subconscious Mind, by Joseph Murphy. Like, it's actually like so good. Like when you're talking about like just manifestation, just like putting it out into the air already. And, like it just covers all that. And I feel like mentally, like I took another level after like I finished reading. It was just like so good, and I recommend it to any young tennis players out there just looking to improve your mental game, basically.
Yeah.
Absolutely, no, that's great.
Because we all know how it is, like trying to play a match when your mind isn't really there.
Yeah.
So that like preparation before and actually clearing your mind, not only of like negative thoughts on the tennis court, but also anything that you have going on outside of the court. Because I feel as though it's actually the things that you bring from that are completely unrelated to tennis that actually really negatively affect the way that you play on the court.
Yeah, facts.
Absolutely. No, Michael, that's a great point. I like to tell my players the tennis court is your sanctuary.
Yeah.
Right. And when we come to the courts at Sidwell, they actually walk from the classroom over a hill to get to the four courts where we practice. And I tell them, when you're walking over, I want you to leave your book bag, any emotional baggage, whatever you're dealing with on the other side of that hill. So when you walk down these steps onto the courts, you have got an hour and a half, 2 hours to lock in and enjoy hitting a fuzzy yellow ball around a rectangle. And I think that's huge for them to just be able to compartmentalize, shut everything else out, and just enjoy playing tennis.
Yeah.
Because like you said, if you walk on the court and you've got all these other thoughts going on, there's no way you're going to perform at 100%.
No way at all.
So what are like some of like you guys like pre-game or like before you play tennis? What are some things like you like to do before you go into the court? Because one of my teammates actually pretty weird. So he's a math major and he loves to do math problems before like we play matches. So I just want to know like what's interesting to you guys, like what's different. What do you guys like to do before you step onto the court?
Absolutely. No, we all of our guys have their own routines, but obviously we want to make sure that we have that team element. So we'll have a call time. Guys will get down there. They, some of them are doing their resistance bands. Some of them have like different, PT exercises that they're doing, for various nagging injuries to make sure that they're warmed up. But they all jog. I have them do 4 laps because in our format it takes 4 points to clinch a team win. So they do those 4 laps around 2 courts together. The captains lead their dynamics, and then they go into the warm up. And I like to make the warm up fun. Right, so I like them to do, some of the Djokovic bounce game, when they're doing short court. I like them to do some volley to volley. Right, they'll go back, hit their ground strokes. We do a lot. I mentioned before, we do a lot of dingles, right, to get them in those cross court rallies, and then also playing some doubles points. We do a lot of Russian crush. That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's always high intensity, and they get real competitive with that. But I like I said, I like to keep them loose. So a lot of games before we go out there, I'm not one where it's okay, it's got to be regimented and everybody's doing this and you're having to hit 100 balls cross court. Okay, now we're switching. Right, a loose, free flowing practice and as well as a loose, free flowing match prep. That's why I'll let them play once we're warm. If we're waiting on the other team, a lot of times the dichotomy, like usually we're warming up on 2 courts, the other team's warming up on 2 courts. It is probably something that a lot of people look at and go, what is going on here? Where you've got another team that might have sort of an old school mindset where they're out there and it's like super regimented and they're warming up and our guys are here, doing 4 square and the line's just rotating. And you might look at it and go, oh, that team is, too loose. But when it's time for the match to start, our boys lock in.
That's good. But I have one question because me and DJ is his nickname, but me and Dendry, we're from the Bahamas, so we don't really have high school tennis. But do you think that being in that team environment from so young is a good preparation for college tennis? Like what exactly is the like, how does it compare to college tennis?
Absolutely. So yeah, no, that's a great question. I think it's a great preparation, right? Because you've got, as you probably know, a lot of the junior tennis in the U.S., like you've got players a lot of them are doing online school, right? They might be going to ICL Academy or Laurel Springs or one of those. And then they're training at an academy. They're going to the USTA tournaments, the ITF tournaments. And as you know, that junior circuit is lonely. You're on an island, right? And so it's a hard transition if you haven't played that team tennis to then step into a locker room where now it's not just about you, but it's about that team aspect. You might be used to being a top-ranked junior, nationally, internationally, and now you have to come in as a freshman. You got guys that are 4 years older than you that were also had the same ranking. So now you're fighting for like that 5th or 6th single spot. Maybe you're a double specialist your freshman year. So I think being in a team environment is huge for building that team culture and that mindset where they're ready to go into college. And when I talk to college coaches that are recruiting my players, that's a huge selling point, right? I can tell them, listen, it's very rare for somebody to play number 1 singles for me for 4 years. It's happened a couple times, but it's rare. So usually they'll be, recruiting somebody who's, 12 UTR, but that kid as a freshman might have played 2 or 3, and I can tell him, listen, this guy's going to come in, he gets the team aspect. He didn't play number 1 as a freshman. He's not going to give you issues with chemistry in the locker room if he's playing, 4 or 5. He knows that every point counts the same, and he really embraces being on the team and wants that experience. And so having been in a locker room for 4 years, I think is a great preparation. That's why I believe my role coaching high school tennis is it's all about creating transformative experiences, right? Yeah. If I can create transformative experiences for our student athletes, it's going to set them up for success in the next chapter of their lives, whether that's on the tennis court playing in college or whether that's, in the classroom, in the courtroom, in the operating room, in the boardroom, wherever their journey takes them.
Yeah. So here we have like a saying where like with my coach, I always tell her like whenever we're looking for players, I said yeah, we don't just come. I always tell people like we don't come here to be good players. We also come here to be good people. You know. So like what you're saying about everybody in the locker room just being so like the chemistry being like so good. Like I think that is also a big thing because sometimes like one run through could spoil the whole tree. You know.
Yes. No, you're so right. I mean, you really do have to have buy-in from everybody, and that's something that takes time to build, right? A lot of times, if you come in like when I came in and started off, as a first-year coach, it was hard because that team culture had not necessarily been fostered all the way previously. So you had players that were used to they'd play their match and they'd leave, and they wouldn't be there till the end of the duel when their teammates are playing because they had a math test or something the next day. That was the first rule I implemented my first season as a coach. Was I said, listen, you would not dream if you were on the basketball team of walking up to the coach in the third quarter and saying, "Hey, coach, I'm not in the game. I got this math test tomorrow, so I'm going to go. Is that cool?" He'd say, "All right, go clean out your locker."
You're off team.
Right? I told him I'm going to tell you the same thing, so don't even think about asking me that question. And that's something that the players understood. And the great thing that happened was the first time that we did that. Actually, our number 3 doubles team was the last one on the court, and they were down, and all the matches finished. Their teammates came over and started, cheering, and they got the momentum, and they came back and won. So I got to say in the huddle after the match, I said, "Hey, how did that feel out there?" And the players were like, "Oh, that made all the difference." So that's huge to getting that buy-in when they see the value of it right away.
Yeah. Okay, I think you had a question you were about to say. All right, we definitely can't hear you, Kate. It's muted now.
No.
No, nothing.
Wait, okay, so what is some advice that you would give high school tennis players that are trying to go and pursue a college tennis career?
Absolutely. So I think obviously I like to look at our high school season, which is short. It's about a 10-week season, right? And I coach girls in the fall, boys in the spring, and I tell them, listen, my objective is for your experience here on our team to complement your training at your academy with your outside coach, to complement your USTA, your ITF schedule. So I sit down with them. I look at when their tournaments are. We do load management because obviously they're still continuing to compete outside throughout the year. And so the advice I would give them is to work really hard, with your training, with your personal coach, to play that whole circuit, because you have to have, as you've got to have the USDA ranking, ITF ranking.
Yeah.
The UTR has to be at a certain number, or the college coach isn't going to look at you.
Yeah.
Right. So they don't need to play high school tennis to get recruited, but I think it's a tiebreaker, like we touched on before. Having somebody who's been in that locker room and who gets team tennis is certainly a leg up when a coach is looking at 2 players that might be like a 12 UTR, and they're saying, okay, well, these are both similar players. I see, similar upside, but this one's played, high school team tennis for 4 years. Maybe he's been a captain for 1 or 2 of those years. You got leadership qualities that they've exhibited. That is a difference maker, I think, as far when they're splitting those hairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another question, it's going to be a bit different. How can tennis become more culturally relevant to younger and more like diverse groups of people, would you say?
Well, I think freestyle tennis is one of those avenues. I think that, trick shots, I would say 10, 15 years ago were frowned upon. Even if you hit a standard tweener, up until Fed hit that legendary one on Djokovic at the U.S. Open, like nobody really, aside, I think Agassi might have done it a few times, but it was very unusual to see a tweener. Now you've got tweeners that are common, underarm serves, Kyrgios sometimes it's underarm tweener serves, Bublik's gone an entire service game without hitting an overhand serve.
Yeah.
I think that flair is great. And I think also Patrick Mouratoglou has done some great things with UTS, with, sort of that short format, keeping it exciting, lowering the net, getting more around the net post, banana shots, getting those players that have that personality and that flair, like a Francis Tiafoe, like a Gael Monfils, like a Sasha Bublik, Andrei Rublev,
Yeah.
all of those players. Like, I think it's huge to have the personality of the players at the top that's drawing people in, and then also just the excitement, right? If you're seeing highlight reel shots, like the average person is going to see that on Sports Center Top 10 and go, oh, that's kind of cool. I want to see that. Yeah. And then like, as far as the freestyle, I mean, I look at it as, with, young kids, like I got, people messaging me all the time, like, can you, do a tutorial? Like, how do you do this? And you get kids, it builds their eye-hand coordination. Like they start juggling the ball on the side of the frame. Like we all did that, like tapping the ball up off the strings when we were in like tennis camp when we were little, right? Like it's just a progression from that to doing something that's a little bit harder, keeping it on the edge. And then you add a couple of those pieces of flair where you're like, latch or put it in the pocket or, racket flip. And it becomes fun. It's kind of, a cool hobby for them to try, but it engages more people. It's more touch points with the game.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the craziest like trick shot you've done, but like before you were creating content?
Yeah. So actually, the one that started it all, I actually did several years before I started creating content. So I had, before the pandemic, I had done a serve. I call it the drop toss serve. So I don't know if you guys have seen this one. You balance the ball on the butt cap. You hold it out, you drop it straight down. It hits the court, ball shoots up. You catch the racket, and you hit it. So I had done that serve, several years before, and when the pandemic hit, and I'm watching TC Live on Tennis Channel, and this is March 2020. You guys remember there were no professional matches on, there were no college matches, there was no competitive tennis, and TC Live was just like a running highlight reel of social media of pros doing. Federer hitting on the wall in the snow doing tweeners. Yeah. There were people in Italy on rooftops hitting from like one apartment building to another. Yeah. There were people doing trick shots. And so I saw that. I said, well, I got a pretty good one that, I'd already filmed. Let me send that in. I sent it in. I sent it to Steve Wiseman, Chandler Rubin, a couple of other hosts. And I thought, I hadn't heard anything, a couple of weeks. I'm like, oh, they're getting thousands of submissions. This is lost in cyberspace. And then one day, Chandler Rubin DMs me and is like, hey, turn on TC Live. You're on in 5 minutes. I thought they were just going to run it as like part of, 20 different shots they were going to show. I think they called it like the social net or whatever. And I turn it on and they opened the show with it. And Chanda's like breaking down the technique. And they had Andy Roddick talking about it. And they spent like 5 minutes analyzing the serve. And then that one obviously went viral. And then I started, doing more of them that summer and posting them. And it all kind of took off and got a life of its own, and I haven't stopped.
The creativity has to be insane to even like think about some of the stuff that I've seen you done. I'd be like, I've never thought to do that with a ball and a racket in my life.
I've actually I watch your videos and I'm like, how is this even possible? Because I remember I met you at US Open.
Yes.
That was with my team the first time, and I was like, how is this possible? You were trying to get us to bounce the ball on the side of the racket. I was like, how is he doing this right now?
Yes. No, it was one of those things where, like, when I first started, like, I started off just doing, like, the tweeners, the serves, and then I started trying to do the freestyle with the racket. And I said, all right, if I can get to 5, then it's just, a matter of staying focused and getting to 10. I'm like, once I get to 10, like, 100's around the corner. I just took, like, maybe 20 minutes one day, and I just was like, well, I'm going to get to 100. I'm not leaving the court till I get to 100. I don't know if you saw that Tiger Woods commercial like years ago, the Nike commercial where he was bouncing the golf ball, and then like he just launches it. Yeah. So I did one of those where I did it for 100. I was filming it, and then once I got to 100, I just hit it up and I just sent that thing, off into space. Yeah. But it's fun because you're just kind of challenging yourself. What can I do next, right? I've done this. What can I add to it?
Yeah.
So it really taps that creative aspect.
Yes. So what are you trying to achieve from like the content creating and the freestyle tennis? Exactly.
I just look at it as a way to grow the game. Yeah. I mean, it's opened a lot of doors for me. Like I've gotten sponsorships, I've gotten opportunities through Babolat, through ASICS to attend different events, travel, and I got to go to the Australian Open this year for the ASICS Tennis Summit, which was amazing. And so just doing different collaborations of content, whether it be with other brands, with other creators. I think it's a way to grow the game. I think it's a way to get people involved. And I mean, I guess I said my goal with it is to get it where I think there's a lane for freestyle tennis, right? Whether that's something through like exhibitions, like before, major tournaments, whether that's, something where it's something that's just, maybe it's done as like a tutorial, where it's something that gets people into the game.
Yeah.
Getting it more on Tennis Channel. I know they do those like 1 minute clinics. I got an idea. I would love, just to get in front of the right person at Tennis Channel and say, hey, like, let's do a 1 minute clinic on tweeners. I got like a dozen of them that I could do on 10, 15 different trick shots.
Hey, we'll tag Tennis Channel in this. Hopefully they.
Let's get it.
You know what's so funny? Last episode we had Kendrick actually, like, I think it was like a hot take or something. So something Kendrick was like, yeah, I think there should be like a trick shot tennis league or something.
Yeah.
Hey,
but I think that's
a great idea. I mean, there's obviously pros that do it like in matches, or even some of them will mess around with it. Like Sebi Korda does some of the juggling on the frame, and I've actually collabed with him a couple times when I've run into him at tournaments. But like, I think there's definitely some other content creators out there that do the freestyle. But I think a freestyle tennis league would be great, and I think that would catch fire.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be good for kids also. Like,
yes,
if little kids, like for me, if I saw, like, I obviously got into tennis really early and I loved it, but for kids who sometimes they may not necessarily like have that crazy love for the game at the start, like having something fun like that would definitely get them in the game, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. I mean, so I like, speaking of the kids, so I volunteer for the Kids Day every year at City Open here in DC. Or right now it's Mubadala City DC Open. Name changes every year with the sponsors. But I volunteer for that Kids Day because I think it's a great opportunity to give back, and kids get excited about it. They're asking me to show them how to do the trick shots. I mean, I've even had like some of the kids come up to me and ask me for an autograph. I'm like, I'm not a touring pro. I just do trick shots. Like, oh no, I follow your Instagram. Sign my tennis ball.
I feel like, we don't even understand, because like one of my friends, like the guy is on my team, and his dad, like I hit a crazy tweener passing shot winner, like just in the corner like the other day, and his dad went and Googled me like after I hit the shot, and he's just like, yeah bro, my dad was just like, yeah, that's the first time I've seen a tweener in person, like going crazy. And I'm like, he's a grown man. I'm just like, yeah, but it was kind of cool though. And I was just like,
tell me the feeling of hitting a tweener passing shot winner is not one of the best feelings in the world.
It was absolutely one of the best feelings.
Absolutely the best.
Playing college tennis, I thought the guy was about to call it out because I barely made it in. But so like everybody went quiet, the whole atmosphere, and then our women's team is actually up, so we have like this little hill, so they were on the hill watching. And then when he said good shot, like everybody was just like, no, whoa, and I just like took a bow. I just was just like, yes.
Oh, tweeners! I love hitting tweeners.
Tell me somebody got that on tape. I got to see this one.
No, they did not. And then I asked my coach. I was like, Coach, did you see that? She was just like, nah. But we have this thing where like if you hit a trick shot and win the point, our assistant coach owes you lunch. So everybody like at least once a match, I want to say like just like let loose and try like a tweener, or something. But yeah, he still owes me lunch. But
well, that's great. So that's whenever you hit a tweener in a match, that's when you're like, tell me somebody has this on film. Actually,
I was hoping.
Speaking of which, I did an exhibition with actually with Francis Tiafo like several years ago. Here at Sidwell, we had a kids clinic. He came out and was super generous with his time. And before we had the clinic, we did just like a 10-point tiebreak with me and our number one player on our varsity team, and him and our number two player. And on like the third point, his partner hits a perfect lob over my partner's head, and I was like, oh, that's going to be the perfect tweener shot. So I just ran back, I hit it. My partner ducks, it goes right over his head. So like neither Francis or Rahul, who was playing with, could see it, and it just goes screaming by for a winner. The 100 or so people that are watching go absolutely nuts, and I'm like, oh man, I hope somebody was filming. And the parent of one of my players is standing on his phone going, I got it.
No, but even more crazy, we were playing championships the other day, and I was actually playing against a guy who made conference second team, so a pretty good opponent. I think I was up 4-3 after being up 4-1, so he's about to make like a comeback, and then we have a deuce point. So I hit a shot, he comes in, backhand volley cross. I dig it out from like doubles alley, Then he goes forehand volley cross again, and then here I am again digging it out, and then I just hit the net, and then it rolls over, and then he pushes it again, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and then here I go run, and like no look, like Federer just one hand flick cross, like almost literally like off the court already, almost onto like the other court, and then it literally just goes past him, and he just goes, and then his coach is just like, and I'm just like, yes, and then
Too good.
and then I'm like, yeah, because like I know like we have like the cameras on the court, but turns out they cut the feed again. So,
Oh, that's twice you gotten robbed.
yeah,
Michael, Kendrick, we got to get a camera on DJ all the time.
We need,
yeah, I think we just need a camera and
we need to. I had a shot last year that the guys from ESPN were there, and for some reason my match was the only one that was frozen, and they told me they tried to look for the shot everywhere. They told me that if they found that was automatic ESPN top 10. Like,
oh man,
it was crazy. But
yeah, MJ be hitting some like crazy shots because like he's just like crazy athletic and like fast, and I just feel like he just gets there with so much time. Like he could just do like whatever he wants with the ball. Like I literally just seen him make up shots like this, and I'd be like, okay, and then I steal it afterwards though. But
so he gives you the creative juices, and then you go and execute.
Yeah. So like there was this thing like when we were younger, I don't know, but like we kept doing it. Like both of us kept doing it. Even like now, sometimes we still do it. Like we're like if we got locked, it's like a backwards overhead, and you just like
yeah,
a little bit.
backward overhead.
Yes.
So that was a thing for a minute, and then one time I saw this guy get locked, and like the ball dropped, and like he's like sliding and does like a forehand push to the side, like while it's going backwards, like pretty good. I saw that as well.
So that was a shot. Actually, I think they call that the Bucharest backfire, because I think Ili Nastasi was the first one to do that.
Yeah.
But I actually, when I was in college, unfortunately, we didn't have the live stream or anything then, so there's no way this one was caught on tape. But there was one point we were playing in doubles where I got lobbed and it went over my head. And I think Agassi had hit it, I think in a U.S. Open match like a year or so before, and I was like, I'm going for this. And it landed. I've got my back to the opponents, and I just went over the shoulder, and I went straight in between them on a frozen rope for a winner, and everybody just like, what happened? But those are always the best shots.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And then you have K here. K be climbing a ladder to hit every overhead. This guy gets like 40 inches off the ground, just bounces every overhead, like no coming back. And I'd be like, here we have Michael Jordan playing tennis.
Well, as you remember, Pete Sampras used to do the slam dunk overhead. I don't know if you guys have seen the old highlights, but he used to get up.
He used to get up. But, okay, so what do you think needs to happen in tennis to make it like more accessible and inclusive in like underserved communities?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that, USTA, different organizations, WTEF in DC has done a lot as far as outreach. Mm-hmm. But I think, actually we're about to play our state tournament next week, which is at Southeast Tennis and Learning Center, which the Williams sisters donated, to and helped open over 10 years ago. And obviously the city put a lot of tax dollars behind. But I think putting facilities in underserved communities, having programs where, and obviously, as we know, there's huge barriers to entry in tennis, right? Yeah. Private lessons, you're talking, now between 100, 150, 200 a pop, depending on the pro you're going to. Court time is expensive, especially in areas like here in the Mid-Atlantic. You got to go indoors for a few years. Indoor court time is hard to find, and when you do it, it's expensive. So eliminating those barriers to entry, getting more coaches to give back as far as donating time, racket donations, things, because obviously, the equipment is another barrier to entry, but also making it something that, like we've been talking about, is more relatable to the next generation, right? Something that in the U.S., there's a lot of sports that our youth have to choose from. It's like a huge sports buffet. Exactly. And so, I mean, we're competing with basketball, with football, with baseball, soccer, lacrosse, hockey, depending on the region, tennis, we have to make it fun. We have to make it exciting. And I think we've got to find a way. And I mean, I really like when I got to meet Patrick Moratiglu at the A6 Tennis Summit back in January, and I got to talk to him a little about what he's doing with UTS, Universal Tennis Showdown. Yeah. Creating some of those formats where you don't have to sit down and dedicate 3+ hours to watching a match.
Yeah.
Where you can watch it and it's exciting, and you have an outcome within 30 minutes, I think is huge. Like I think obviously like I'm definitely a purist. The majors need to be what they are.
Yeah.
I love the physical
Yeah.
element of a best of 5 match, but finding a way in some of those other events where we can shorten the format and get it to where the average person who's not necessarily a diehard tennis player or fan like ourselves wants to sit down and they'll spend an hour, hour and a half watching. But when we're talking about, a match that's going to go 3-4 hours, most people don't have the time to dedicate to that. And that's where they tune out.
Yeah.
That's another thing, like with college tennis, since I played in college, like they've already shrunk the format. I know everything's no ad now.
Yeah.
Doubles is just 1 set to 6.
Yeah.
But like finding different ways while still keeping the core elements of the game, but ways, and I know they've experimented with a fast 4 format they do in some tournaments now, but ways to make it where it still has the physical element, but is not so time consuming where the average fan changes the channel.
Yeah, but what's crazy is even like college tennis, like we see like the difference in like I would say like the classes and just like the money difference, being like playing for HBCU, like Andrew, like like those Power 5 schools, every match they have like they're recording, right? But we don't have those, and then we have like some schools don't have as good tennis courts as others. Luckily, so I go to Coppin State, so we just got new tennis courts, and I think they had to put like $1 million, I want to say, like into it. But now we do we do community events, so we allow kids to come out. This other day we had clinics with a few high schools that came out, and now we're going to start an after school program, and obviously the players are going to get to be a part of that. And I think like that's good, it gives the kids from the community an outlet, and also like the players a chance to give back anyway.
Yeah. But like back to what you were saying, Logan, like about the different sports and kids like having so much different options. Like they look at, because tennis matches could be extremely long. We know this. Like a match doesn't have a necessarily like a time limit compared to other sports. So it's like having those things like UTS, because sports like basketball, the NBA, they have all-star game, like where no matter what sport is your like main sport that you watch, you will watch the all-star game just because of the mere fact that it's something fun to watch. So I think because there's like a negative connotation on tennis, like that it's a boring sport. But us as tennis players, we know it's not a boring sport, but we just need to have a way for other people to know why we love the game so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another thing, I want your perspective on like how do you think something like what we're doing, just 3 young guys with a podcast just spreading information, how do you think this can affect the tennis community?
No, I mean I think it's great. I think that I love what you guys are doing with the podcast. I think the more channels that we have to reach people, the better, right? So, I think obviously Gen Z, as you know, they're tapped into all of the online and the social media outlets, right? So for them being able to stream your podcast and listen to you chop it up with all different types of personalities in tennis. I've seen, you guys, I know you had, multiple people on here that are doing all different things, right? Yeah. So I think that's you guys are growing the game, in your own lane, right? I think all of us are taking that different route, but we've all got that same end goal in mind of getting more people involved in the sport.
Exactly.
I think one thing that's still can you hear me?
No, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. I think one thing that's really good too now is like with tennis, like people are getting like different like brand deals and being able to like reach out and like opening up to like different experiences. I think that's one thing that's really good with tennis as well, because like basketball has it, football, almost every other sport, but I think therefore like with tennis, since more like players are like reaching out and like doing like bigger things, I think it like attracts definitely a lot more attention to tennis for sure.
Most definitely.
Yes, actually you asked me about some advice I had for like players that are trying to play in college.
Yeah.
One piece of advice I would give them is start growing your social media early.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend a ton of time on it, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't do a ton of editing on my content. I usually set up a tripod, my phone. I just hit record. I let it roll. I might spend, 15, 20 minutes, and then I've got a batch of content. And then all I'll do is just cut that up and post it in different spaces. But if you can start to build your personal brand from a young age, then that's going to give you the opportunity when you're in college to cash in on some NIL money.
Yeah.
Because if you come into college and you've got 30, 40,000 followers, even if you got 10,000 followers, right, that's still a micro influencer.
Yeah.
And especially these brands are looking for people who have a niche, like in tennis, where, okay, you've got 10,000 followers, but all 10,000 of those followers are heavily invested in tennis. Then all these different tennis brands, it doesn't have to be rackets, apparel, or shoes. It could be, I've had brand deals with, companies that are making, ball machines.
Yeah.
You have brand deals with all of the cottage industry that's around the sport.
Yeah.
So if you can build your personal brand early and start thinking about what you want that to be, then that can really set you up for additional streams of revenue when you get to that level where you have a platform to play on.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the one thing that sucks about like the NILs is the fact that I obviously know this is like a law, but the fact that international tennis players can't necessarily get NILs, and that's like I feel like that could be like a little deterrent for some people that are from like extremely far countries that don't necessarily have a lot of money, because obviously we know tennis is an expensive sport, so they don't have a lot of money and they weigh in the options like, do I go pro and try to make revenue, do I go to college? Like I feel as though obviously we know that's like a law, but I feel as though that's like a deterrent for some people also.
No, that's a great point. I think that's something that needs to change, right?
Yeah.
Like that's obviously like, internationally, like you should have the opportunity to be sponsored just like anybody from the States.
Yeah.
Right. But you raise an interesting point as far as making that decision between when to turn pro, whether you're going to take the college route. I think it's really interesting to me the way that has evolved since the time I was playing college tennis, where like if you were in that, like say you were top 5 ITF in the 18s, like you were turning pro.
Yeah.
Whereas now I think there's way more players who are choosing that college route. I think that the money is part of it, but I think more so than just the NIL, because that's really that top slice, unless you've built a big personal brand.
Yeah.
Right. But more so than the revenue opportunity is the access to facilities, the access to quality coaching.
Yeah.
And now the access to competition, because I feel right now like NCAA tennis is the minor leagues.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you are playing 4 years of college tennis, especially if you're playing like top on your team, like, if you're in those top 3 single spots, you're really going to get tested.
Yeah.
And playing comparable competition to playing a futures.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So that's going to help you raise your game over that 4 years. You're going to have 4 years of additional training, which you're not having to pay for a coach. You're not having to pay for flights, for hotel, all those things that as you know, add up if you're out there on the tour when you're paying your own way. And as we know, if you're not inside that top 200, you're struggling to break even.
Yeah.
And so I think college gives players the opportunity to extend that runway to get to then where you might be like 21, 22, 23, but you're 4 years older, 4 years more mature, and your game has built, you're physically at a level where you're stronger, faster, and you've grown into your game, where now you've got a better chance to capitalize on what you probably have is like a 1 or 2 year window, unless you are independently wealthy or have a major sponsor.
Yeah. I feel as though tennis now, college tennis now, is like a head start for a lot of people that are actually trying to go pro. Like, for example, everybody should know, like Colton Smith, who plays for Arizona, he made that big jump from 1600 to 150 ATP. And as we know, like playing for a big school like that, they probably pay, I don't know necessarily, but they probably pay for, coaching, his flights, because obviously if he's staying at Arizona, I'd hope that they're paying for his travels to these tournaments. But like just something like that, like breaking into 150 while you're still in college, like that's a major head start for when you actually finish with college and go on to the professional tour, because now you have qualifying opportunities for majors, for 250s, 500s, Masters 1000. So I think what they're doing with college tennis in that aspect is great right now.
I also love what UTR is doing. I think, did Colton Smith recently win the Hurt Award?
I think so.
I
he
think
did,
so.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's huge where they're giving, both men's and women's players. I think Peyton Stearns got one, maybe last year. But like those are huge opportunities for you to be able to get that jump start on the tour where you don't have to worry about coming up with the money for those expenses, off the bat.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we've given a lot of information, so we could start to get a little bit looser. So, what's one rule that you would change in tennis?
I mean, I would get rid of the lets. I love college where you play through the lets. I mean, both like where you got a looser net, like, and it just kind of dribbles over and it's a miss. But more so, as we know in doubles, when that ball hits a tight net cord and pops up, and suddenly your partner is backpedaling as fast as they can not to get tagged, you talk about excitement.
Yeah,
Like that's an electric moment.
it is. Most
And I also, speaking to like speeding up the game, like that's big. So I would get rid of the lets, play through them.
What's your take on the coaching in professional tournaments? What do you think about that?
I think it's great they've opened it up. I know that there were some concerns about the equity of it, because obviously the higher level players can afford to travel with a coach.
Yeah.
I got an idea. I think what the ATP and WTA should do is they should take some of the revenue that they're generating. They should hire coaches who are in the city where the tournament's being hosted to coach players that don't travel with a coach. They pay them a stipend for that week, and they're in the player's box. They're there working with them on the practice court. That way, those players that are in that 50 to 2 something range are able to get the coaching, so they're not at a deficit versus a top 10 player who's got 5 people in their box between their coach and their practice partner and their physio and their masseuse, right? And then still have the coaching aspect. Because as we know, the coaching was happening.
Yeah.
It was just being intermittently enforced.
Yeah.
So I think that having the coaching there is great. I think they should start miking coaches up. I think that would be awesome to hear what is being, what advice is being given. I think that's great for like the fan interaction. And I've always loved team tennis, especially the college coaching rules, where you're on court, you can walk up, tell your player something between points as long as you don't disrupt the flow of play, and that adds an extra element to it where you've got that interaction, and I think that brings people into the game. The fact that we know coaches say like a Patrick Mouratoglou or like a Darren Cahill or a Brad Gilbert are household names now to people who watch tennis.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think that coaching is an important element of the game. I think it's always been something that I don't think the average fan has understood, that like a player can't receive coaching.
Yeah.
So I think the more that we incorporate it, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah. If this is a question for everybody, I want to hear everybody's answer. If you could play tennis, if you could play doubles with anybody, dead or alive, who would you choose as your partner?
Logan, you could go first.
I'm gonna go last.
Honestly, I would say I got to think that if you played a doubles match with Nick Kyrgios, I mean that is going to be some popcorn tennis right there. And personally, I would be there just to watch the trick shots he would hit. I would hope that I might get a tweener in there. But his banter, I think he's hilarious on the court. I know he's a polarizing personality to some, but I think he's great for the game.
Yeah.
I think having him in the commentary booth is awesome. I love what he's done off the court. He's somebody I would love to see coaching too. Actually, when I was out at Indian Wells, they had a Q&A, and I asked him a question at Desert Smash. If you could coach any one current player on tour, who would it be? He said, Francis Tiafoe. I would love to see that partnership. I love David Witt. I hope Francis stays with him for a long time, and they have a lot of great success. But I think seeing, even if it was just for one tournament, maybe like a UTS event, Kyrgios in Francis's box, that's some popcorn tennis.
You gotta clip that right there. That's MJ, you?
For me, I'm gonna take the standard answer and just say Federer. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I just feel like so clean, his volleys. I'd honestly probably just tell them to hit to him so I could see his volleys firsthand. I'm not gonna lie. But I'd say Federer, yeah, for sure.
Follow-up question. What side are you playing? Deuce or ad?
I'm playing ad. I only play ad side.
Let me see.
What you think, eh?
I'm gonna go with Ben Shelton because I'm a kick serve type of person. Kick serve all day, serve volley.
Everybody don't fry me. I'm about to play with my dad in his prime. Hey, you don't know, you gotta do your homework. Do your homework on it. That man.
Like his dad, a Bahamas legend. Do your homework.
Yeah. He won. He played against Roddick in juniors because they both trained at the same academy, and he was like known to be a better player than Roddick at that time. But tennis is mental, and a lot of other things. But yeah, I'm taking my dad in his prime. We're gonna play doubles, and we just gonna catch some dubs out here.
Y'all got to find some old tape now because I want to see his dad play.
Yeah, but like this guy like 6'3", one hand, backhand, like classic old school tennis. Really, like even now to this day, I think he could still beat some. Like maybe if he like trained and like lost a couple of like the dad pounds, he probably could beat me in a match. I would say like this guy still has the same heavy ball technique, is like really clean, everything. Like still has a good serve. He's aced me a couple times when we play a little backhand. I'm not embarrassed to say because he's a player like just by nature, like he's an actual tennis player.
So you brought up the one-hander. So I'm team one-hander. I'm old school. How many guys on your team still hit with a one?
Not one.
Zero.
I pull it out.
Zero.
I pull it out randomly if I got to. I'm not
The
hitting a
closest-
one-hander though.
The closest thing we have a one-hander is one of my like close friends on the team. This guy crazy slices all the time. He slices just about every ground stroke at least like five. Matter of fact, 3 out of every 5 balls probably a slice from this guy. So he has like the most game. Like it's kind of tricky. It's kind of like a one-hander. They slice a lot. But yeah, actual one-hander, zero.
Do you think?
I know we're a dying breed.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's disappearing a little bit. But what's a moment in tennis like all time that gave you chills, like that you could remember, whether it be like a retirement or just like somebody winning?
So when I was a kid, I remember watching Sampras play Alex Corretja
Okay.
I believe it was a round of 16 of the U.S. Open. I'm not going to remember the year. It was in the 90s, and he had food poisoning.
Okay.
He was losing his lunch in the bushes behind the court in a 5th set tiebreaker. Go back and look up this match on YouTube.
I will.
And he came up down match point with a second serve ace after puking in the bushes.
Wow.
I mean, you want to talk about grit. This was one of the all-time moments, and this was like a night session. It had to be like, it was way past my bedtime. I don't know what time it actually was, but it definitely had to be close to midnight. And I'll never forget staying up and watching that match. I don't know how I convinced my parents to let me do it, but like that was an all-time moment. That was one of those things that inspired me, as a kid was watching Pistol Pete out there. And you want to talk about DJ those overheads getting up. Sampras used to be able to get up.
Yo, he used to get up.
He had the slam dunk overhead down.
Because he just snapped.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what was your welcome to coaching moment, if you had any? Like, where it's just like, where you just had to pull your head because of the kids, What was your welcome to coaching moment?
Oh, man. It's the kids are great, right? Like, the kids want to be there. They want to have fun. My welcome to coaching moment was actually my first season as a head coach. And it's I mean, as you probably know, parent interactions can be interesting as a coach.
Yeah.
So I came in, I'm a little green behind the ears. It's my first, head coaching experience, and I'm stepping in. And give you a little bit of background. Our courts are split up where there's 4 on one side of campus and 2 in the center of campus. We're right in the center of DC, right? So we're lucky to have courts at all.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at, I had I think it was 50 kids trying out for our girls team in the fall. And I got to figure out which, at that point I said I'm going to keep 16. I'm going to keep on a varsity roster. And so I'd been an assistant, previously. And so I'd seen the girls that were on the varsity the year before. And so I was like, all right, I've already seen them play. I'll send them with my assistant to the 2 courts in the center campus, and I will watch the rest of the girls play with a manageable number on 4 courts. And I get back to my office 2 hours later, and I open up my laptop, and I've already got. I mean, this is like 5 minutes after practice has ended. I've got like a book of an email. Anytime you get as a coach, you get an email is longer than a page. You got to scroll, from a parent. It's not good.
It's not good.
So I'm looking at it as like, I thought this was an open tryout, and you've already pre-selected these players to make the team, and my daughter wasn't in that group, and this isn't a fair shake. And what I realized was I had failed to communicate. I hadn't explained my process. I hadn't said this is what we're going to do. I hadn't said here's the criteria. So I immediately then had to start playing catch up.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously the nice thing we have in tennis is you can make a ladder and you can play head-to-head challenge matches, and it becomes very objective. There's no me having a favorite. It's okay. Well, there it is, 4-4. There's the result, right? You can't argue it. You can't argue with that. No. But I had to, create the system and explain it better. So that was kind of my welcome to coaching, my trial by fire, as I would say, of like communication, right? Like we've got to, and I mean, that's one of the things I like to do with my players, and the parents are stakeholders. In the community as well. I'm a big believer, in our Sidwell tennis family. All of us have the same objective, right? Which is for the student athlete to graduate, with the skill set that they need to succeed at the next level, and having had the best experiences they can have on the tennis court to develop those skills that they're going to need, whether it's that self-confidence they build through tennis, whether it's the ability to perform under pressure, whether it's the ability to think on their feet and handle adversity, all of those things. So communication, getting everybody on the same page, and just letting people know what to expect, whether it's from a tryout, whether it's from a tournament we're traveling to, or whether it's from a practice.
Yeah.
I got one.
I know you said Sid. Oh, go okay.
Who would you say your starting 5 tennis players are?
Starting 5. So from are we going ATP right now?
ATP.
Yeah.
We can go
ATP.
Let's go all
So,
all time.
all time. So I'm assembling a super team.
Yeah.
All
Avengers,
time.
the tennis Avengers.
Tennis Avengers. All right. I got to get my Infinity Stones here. So I mean, number one, I'd say I got to go with Roger.
Yeah.
Right, Roger's got to be in there. I mean, obviously, we know the cleanest game. Obviously, Novak has got the most majors, but I think you got to have Roger in there. I think I'm putting. It's so hard with the big three, right?
Yeah. Nobody.
But I think I'm going to go. And it's interesting, actually. Right now on my team, I feel like I have 3 number ones because I've got 3 guys that are all right around an 11 UTR.
Yeah.
And I haven't played challenge matches, and literally they'll all go to tiebreakers.
Yeah.
So it's an embarrassment of riches. But I would say I'm putting the big 3. I'm going to go Roger, Rafa, Novak.
Yeah.
I'm going to go way back and go Rocket Rod Laver at 4. Old school. And then number 5. All time. I got to go Pistol Pete.
Yeah. That's fair.
Okay, that's fair.
That's a good 5. Me personally, I throw Murray in there. Murray is my favorite.
Oh my, he's still on this Murray thing, bro. Let it go. Let Murray go, bro. Come on. Prime Murray, maybe.
Not even.
Nah, Prime Murray maybe could sneak in. Think about it. If Murray never got injured, maybe he can sneak into the list. Maybe.
Top 6.
But it's.
If we're taking snapshots, like Prime Murray was in that big 3 era. He was part of the big 4, and he was number 1, and he got those 2 Olympic golds.
Yeah.
He's
plus his 3 majors.
That is true.
He's just a big what if.
Yeah.
There's so many what ifs in time. I mean, one of them for me was Tommy Haas.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, one of the best one-handers I've ever seen. I know he had that one Aussie Open final, but if that man could have stayed healthy, I mean, he was snake bit. If he could have stayed healthy, that man has multiple majors.
Most definitely German one.
I have a very serious question here, and how you answer this determines the fate of the Earth right here.
All right.
So, 100 men versus a gorilla, right? I want to hear which ATP players are you taking to go fight the gorilla?
10. You have to pick 10.
You have 10 ATP players to fight the gorilla. All
10
time.
ATP. All time. Okay, I can go back all time. All right.
There's 3 people who have to be on this list. Don't say them. I'm gonna tell you after.
All right. So I got 10 all-time ATP players to fight one gorilla.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, Ilie Nastase was crazy enough to fight the gorilla.
Okay.
So I'm putting him in there because you need to be a little nuts because if you're gonna fight the gorilla, all 10 have to go at him at once. Because if you go one by one, you're getting your limbs ripped off.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a strategy, and you've got to have those that are willing to sacrifice for the group. We're talking team sports right here. So somebody is going to take an L, but it's about the pack survival.
Exactly.
So Illy's going to be crazy enough to jump out there.
Okay.
Marat Safin was a beast of an athlete and also is a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
So I'm throwing Marat in there. Let's see. So I got 2. I mean, I think we need a little bit of size, and I heard my man could box too. I'm going Joe Wilfried Tsonga.
Yeah, I was thinking him. I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking him.
Tsonga for sure.
Yeah.
So we got 3 there. You know, it's hard with the tall guys because some of them are like really lanky, but I think we need a little bit of height. We need a serve bot on this team.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know, Karlovic, Dr. Evo's too skinny.
Yeah.
So I think as far as the serve bots, that we could take Riley Opelka.
That's what I was thinking beforehand.
Riley Opelka, and he's got the beard, he's got the mane. I mean, I like the look.
He's ready.
He's ready, and I think he's got the height and the mass to go at that gorilla.
Yeah.
So we got Riley. So we got 4 now.
Yeah, I think we have 5. We're at 5.
We got 5. All right.
5 more.
So I got 5 left. Oof. I mean, I'm gonna start going pure athleticism here. I'm going Lamolf. Gael. Gael is 6.
Lamolf.
Yeah.
And talking pure athletes, I gotta go with our boy Francis Tiafoe, DMV favorite. Another pure athlete. He's got some mass on him. Francis could throw down with that gorilla.
Yeah, probably.
So we got 7 now. We 7 or 8.
We're at 7.
I lost count.
We got
7.
Got 3 more.
3 more. All right. I'm thinking I got to go back a little ways now. Johnny Mack. I mean, we wanted crazy. Johnny Mack is crazy.
Yeah.
Johnny Mack will go with that gorilla. He might not have been the biggest guy, but Johnny Mack is one of those with Nastase who's going to jump out there and lay it on the line. So I got 2 more. Man. Andre Rublev. I'm going crazy factor again.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna finish it off with his buddy, also from the Crazy Train, Daniil. We're going with the octopus.
Yeah.
All right, I need to know the 3 that you want.
I was thinking the tall guys. I was thinking Riley, I was thinking Opelka, and I was thinking Isner. But after you said too skinny, I was like, okay, he's right. I was thinking they might have to be the ones that take it for the team. Like they have to be the defenses, and then everybody else does the damage.
Yes. Everyone else just grabs a leg.
Yeah, but I think DJ Cutout got some technical difficulties, but I think we're good. So I'd say, what do you want to leave the people with? Like, what would you want to be remembered by?
I think, as far as my legacy in the game of tennis, I want to be remembered as an athlete and a coach who has a love for the game, who did everything he could to grow the sport, to impact as many lives as possible, to inspire as many young student athletes as I could to get involved in the game, to be the best possible versions of themselves on and off the tennis court, right? To have developed a team culture where rising tides raise all ships.
Yeah.
And where anybody who became a part of any of the teams that I've coached was a better person when they left than they were when they set foot on the court at the beginning. I think the impact is with the lives that we teach, the lives that we touch, the players that we teach, the players that we coach, and just leaving this sport and this game better than we found it.
That's great.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
Touched me with that just now.
Great.
Touched me with that. I think it's definitely been a great episode. Definitely a great time talking with you, Logan. So I'll
Likewise.
also good luck to you boys.
all the best.
Guys have to finish it out for us, please.
The dub.
We hope you guys come up with a state title, you know.
Absolutely not. Thank you. I appreciate you all. This has been a blast. I really enjoyed chopping it up with you all this afternoon.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see the content from this episode.
Yeah.
And let's definitely stay in touch. I love what y'all are doing. Love the podcast. Love what you do for the game. Best of luck. I know y'all are in the off season right now, but getting ready for that fall season when you get back on the courts.
Sure.
You know,
But I'll
enjoy it, guys.
Yeah, I'll let DJ close us out.
All right, so thank you guys for watching another episode of the Match Point Podcast here with Logan West, aka Wolverine, upcoming state champion. Yeah, we just want you guys to remember, Match Point is the most important point.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.